Good evening and welcome to my How Healthy Are You weekly educational call. My name is Dr. Thomas Brewer. I'm a PhD chemist, and for this week's call, I'm going to start off by answering a question that I received from Penny, and I told her I was going to talk about it on this week's call. And the topic is shingles. And it's very timely because shingles is caused from a virus. And I talked at length about viruses back in the end of February when we were getting going with the coronavirus, COVID-19. And I actually did a 2-weekly part 1, part 2 main topic for the educational newsletter called Epstein-Barr virus part 1 and Epstein-Barr virus part 2. Now, if you want to look back, those were the February 25th and the March 4th newsletters. And I wanted to go over a little bit of this information because it ties in directly with shingles. Because you'll see a link between nasty viral illnesses, and there'll be a link for all of them, how we get them, how they stay in the body, and how we fight them. So in the first part of that, I mentioned that Epstein-Barr virus is actually something that is really the root cause of many mystery illnesses, namely fibromyalgia and lupus, chronic fatigue syndrome, thyroid disease, vertigo, and even tinnitus. So that's why all of those issues are very, very difficult to heal. Now, a fascinating fact is that we have about 300 million people in the U.S., but 225 million. So let's just round it. 2 out of 3 people in the U.S. have some form of Epstein-Barr virus. That is absolutely amazing. This virus has evolved, and it goes through 4 stages. Most people are in stage 1. But remember, I always tell people viruses aren't alive, including COVID-19 and the virus responsible for shingles. None of these viruses are alive, but they act alive once they invade a cell and start grabbing the cell's DNA. So with Epstein-Barr virus, once the virus invades a cell, it leaves behind dead cells, but they're toxic, so they're known as toxic corpses, essentially like a toxic dead cell. And that's what makes our immune system work really hard, because our immune system, white blood cells, sense this toxic corpse. So this is the beginning of when people's immune system starts attacking them and these autoimmune diseases. That's where it starts. They're sort of not really dangerous, but our white blood cells think they are. So with Epstein-Barr, the first stage is somewhat dormant, and the virus is floating around your blood, and it's replicating. So it's just waiting for an opportunity. It's waiting for an opportunity to start hurting you, and usually it's some sort of physical or emotional exhaustion or even any hormonal change. And that's why one version is mononucleosis. That's stage 2, and that's when younger people are going through a hormonal change. And it's very contagious during that second stage. And it ends up migrating to the liver or the spleen because it feeds on those toxins and the bacteria in those organs. That's stage 2. And then the third stage, it actually gets to other organs, stays in them, and it's completely undetectable at stage 3. And that's why people think they've won the battle with this virus, along with other viruses. But it's still excreting toxic waste. They're called spirochetes. You may have heard of that word before. So you'll get a false positive, but then you think, no, I'm not really sick. And at this point, it's also releasing a neurotoxin, so that's going to affect nerve function. Again, confusing the immune system. And it's hard to identify this Epstein-Barr virus, and so it gets linked to hepatitis C, and it's the main cause of hepatitis C, and people get poor food digestion. So even if they take enzymes, they still can't alleviate the food indigestion problems. Food allergies then come as a result. So it gets progressively worse. And then at the end, which is a stage 4, that's the ultimate goal, and that's when the virus is starting to leave the organs and really staying in the central nervous system. And again, standard blood tests, x-rays, MRIs, they're going to show nothing is wrong, and that's when people think they're going crazy and they get treated with anti-anxiety medication when really they're in stage 4 Epstein-Barr virus. This is where they get diagnosed with fibromyalgia because they think they're crazy and it doesn't exist, but they got to give them some label, chronic fatigue syndrome, and rheumatoid arthritis, which is, again, an autoimmune issue. It's your white cells attacking you when they really don't need to attack you. So it's easy to catch, especially in stage 2. It's very communicable, very difficult to detect, like most viruses. And with Epstein-Barr, there's about 60 varieties. Now to what's important, the healing process. The healing process for this virus and others, like shingles, and there's a link, and I'll get to that in just a moment. Healing from these types of viruses takes 3 to 18 months. And the first step is you need to really increase your intake of whole foods, fruits and vegetables. Now, you already know these foods are good for you, but you're going to have to really take it up a notch. And you want to decrease your consumption of animal-based products. Now, I've talked about this many times. Where do I stand on this? I still consume animal products, but it's at a very, very small amount. But I was one of those people that ate animal products at every single meal. But you reach a point where your body just can't keep doing that. The second thing I recommend is to get your white blood cells very, very strong, and you're going to do this by consuming Steromax, taking 3 a day every day. And if you've never taken Steromax, then take 6 a day your first 2 months and then drop down to 3 per day. But it is very, very important to take Steromax. The next thing to consume is a food you normally get at Japanese-type restaurants. It's called wakame seaweed. So that's your typical seaweed salad. And this is absolutely one of the best antiviral foods. And it is actually the best thing for shingles, the shingles virus, but it's incredibly good for every other virus. And so I believe you can get it in the store because if the restaurants have it, you can get it. The third thing is something called cat's claw. It's a very, very good antioxidant. It is found in the Metabolic Complete that I have. You just take 2 a day. But cat's claw reduces Epstein-Barr virus and its cofactors. The next item is the lightning colloidal silver. Lightning colloidal silver is a very active form of colloidal silver because it's made with very high voltage. and you alternate 2 weeks of taking an ounce per day of the colloidal silver on an empty stomach, followed by 2 weeks of taking probiotics, standard dose of probiotics, whatever it says on the bottle. And you just keep alternating again for 3 to 18 months. And what the silver does is it lowers the Epstein-Barr virus viral load. So when you lower the load, then your white cells can catch up. The next item, which we've all heard linked to COVID-19, though this is for every virus, is zinc. And what it does for your immune system, you can find foods that are high in zinc, like pumpkin seeds, or you can supplement with it. And then finally, vitamin B12. Again, this is found in a lot of foods, but it strengthens the central nervous system because as these viruses progress, they eventually end in our central nervous system. Most vegans, pretty low in vitamin B12 because the best source is meat. So if you need to, you just supplement with it. But now to link this to shingles. So the shingle virus is called a zoster virus. And what it does is you end up getting a rash on your skin. This virus is linked to other viruses. So it is a type of herpes virus. Nobody likes that word, but that's what it is. Herpes virus 1, that's the oral herpes where you get cold sores. Herpes virus 2 is genital herpes. Herpes virus 3, that's the shingles. So that is the type of herpes virus. And then here's the link. Herpes virus 4 is Epstein-Barr. And that's why I said these are all linked, because it is a herpes type virus. So that's what I have to both describe the shingles and how to heal yourself. Going through all of those processes, some of that's food-based, some of that is supplement-based. But by all means, eating the wakame seaweed is extremely important and fairly low cost, far less expensive than buying supplements. But the worse your situation is, the more I recommend you do food and supplements. So that's what I have for my introduction this evening. I'm going to open up the call to questions and go off like there we go. I know there's quite a few people on the line, but if anyone has a question, please ask it now, and it's no problem if there aren't any questions.
Somebody asked a question.
Did you have a question?
I have a question, Doctor, about statins and something to counteract the effect of the statins. I understand ubiquinol does that, but is ubiquinol also an antioxidant?
It's a type of alcohol, but you want to find an alternative to taking statins to lower your cholesterol?
Yes.
Is that what you're looking for?
Yes.
Okay. So the first thing is most people that have high cholesterol, 99% of them do not need statins. Only 1% of them, no matter what they do, they need to take statins. Without statins, their cholesterol would be too high. The 99% of people with high cholesterol can lower their cholesterol just through diet and getting the cholesterol out of their body. How do you get cholesterol out of the body? Well, it's always been the same way. Soluble fiber drags cholesterol out of the body. This is why 40 years ago they would advertise Quaker Oats oatmeal as a way to lower your cholesterol. Now, the FDA didn't like that, but it's true. And it's not just Quaker Oats oatmeal. It'd be any form of soluble fiber will drag cholesterol out of the body, thus lowering your cholesterol. If your cholesterol is lower, then there's a less chance of it hardening because there's less cholesterol to harden. Now, I've always taught people that your cholesterol level is of secondary importance. What's of primary importance is the type of cholesterol and the ratio of HDL to LDL cholesterol. Or you can make it LDL to HDL, just the ratio of the two main types of cholesterol. The HDL stands for high-density lipoprotein. Cholesterol is a lipoprotein, which is a fatty protein. And then LDL stands for low-density lipoprotein. The low-density cholesterol is easy to oxidize, which means it's easy to harden, which means that's the type of cholesterol that clogs the arteries. The HDL cholesterol is just the opposite. It actually helps clear your arteries of LDL cholesterol. So if somebody has a cholesterol level of 250, the doctor's going to immediately put them on statins because they're over that magic number of 200. And by the way, that magic number used to be 250. They changed the goalposts. So for the past 20, 30 years, it's been 200. So if your total cholesterol is 250, but 150 of those units is HDL and 100 was LDL, you have some of the best cholesterol levels of anybody on the planet, yet you would be told to take a statin drug. And the reason I say it's incredibly good, and that's because that person would have more HDL, 150, than their LDL, which was 100. So they actually had more HDL than LDL. And the reason that's unique is most people have more LDL than HDL. Typically, most people have twice. So their LDL may be, say, 150, and their HDL would be, and that would put them over 200, and the doctors would think, well, you're over 200, and your LDL is 2 times your HDL. That really puts you in the border, because when you get to 3 times where your LDL is 3 times your HDL, that's when it's bad. And when I say it's bad, that means there's a lot of LDL cholesterol that has the chance to harden. The ultimate test is, let me take a drop of your blood and look at it under the microscope, because I've seen numerous people with high cholesterol and high LDL, meaning their ratios are around 2 to 1, 2 times LDL to HDL, versus 1 to 1, which would be just really good. And they didn't have any crystalline plaque or crystalline cholesterol, which means there's no need for them to take medication because they're not hardening the cholesterol. So the main way we get cholesterol is from our liver. Our liver makes cholesterol. And our liver makes cholesterol because we need it. It is not something we don't need, it is not something bad. But when your liver is stressed, you make more LDL than HDL. That's the problem. So the problem really is liver toxicity and all the various ways to heal a damaged liver and to detoxify the liver, which is a lifetime process. And it begins every morning drinking your half a lemon squeezed into 8 ounces of warm water, then waiting 30 minutes or maybe slightly less, and drinking 4 to 6 ounces of freshly squeezed celery juice, waiting another half hour, and then eating whatever you want, really. But that process, for the rest of your life, will not only detox your liver, it'll also allow you to fight off Epstein-Barr virus and any other virus, COVID-19, shingles, herpes, and any other virus. And you've got to keep your liver healthy. And no matter what we do, we are always toxifying our liver because we live on a polluted planet. And I don't care how well you think you're eating, it's still not ideal. It could be closer to ideal than others, but still not ideal. So that's how you heal the liver, so you're not making so much LDL cholesterol, which most people are doing. If you're eating animal products on a regular basis, there's an extremely high percentage chance that your LDL cholesterol is going to be high. And it's not everyone, because everyone's genetics are different, but most people, it will eventually raise their LDL cholesterol. I watch mine go up from when my cholesterol used to be checked at one of my research jobs. I worked for chemical industry, and they would check us. And I had like the best blood in the research center. And at the time, I was eating 3 eggs for breakfast, meat for lunch, meat for dinner. Sometimes I'd even have steak and eggs, meat and eggs for breakfast. I was drinking probably a quart of milk a day. So my cholesterol, my LDL was around 90 and my HDL was 90. So, I mean, I had a 1-to-1 ratio, which is just considered fabulous and still under their goalpost of 200. But that changed. That changed 30 years later. Those numbers changed a lot, so I had to change my eating habits. And, of course, a lifetime of detoxing my liver, which we all have to do. It's just a matter of if you choose to do it. But that's the whole story behind cholesterol. Do you have you need any more information on cholesterol?
No, just so I stopped taking the statin, then that would eliminate the need for the ubiquinol also, but still require an antioxidant. Is that right? Well,
of course, I would recommend getting the body accustomed to having enzymes with your meals so your body doesn't react by producing a lot of hydrochloric acid when you eat. And after a few weeks, your body will start accepting the fact that there's enough protease enzyme and lipase enzyme and amylase enzyme and sucrase enzyme, fibrase enzyme to digest your meal, and your body will start excreting less acid. And it'll get rid of a lot of inflammation and a lot of stress to your organs, because everything is interrelated. You start having digestive stress, it will lead to stress in other organs that aren't linked to digestion, like your kidneys and like your muscles and your nervous system.
Thank you.
Okay. Do we have any other questions?
Yes, I had a question about smoothies.
Yeah.
How soon does a person have to eat the smoothie after making it?
Pretty fast. Unless you seal it in like a mason jar where you can completely seal it and refrigerate it, the sooner the better. If you can refrigerate it, you've got a day. If you can seal it and refrigerate it, and that's pushing it, but that'd be about the limit. Ultimately, you want to consume it within 30 minutes. You may not be able to do that all the time, but if you can seal it and refrigerate it, then you could use it later.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. If we don't have any other questions, I'm going to close out the call and make sure you take a look at the newsletter as well as all the previous ones. Quite a bit of information that's been amassed in the past couple of years. So anyway, thank you for your attention, and I wish everyone a healthy evening. Okay, good night, everybody.